Hey, what's up everybody? My name's Jacob and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to make an easy pan-fried breaded chicken cutlet. We're going to dunk that in buffalo sauce and put it on top of a spicy ranch salad from Trader Joe's. If you haven't already, go over and follow me on Instagram so you can see other dishes like this one. Let's go do it. This week I am going to make crispy pan-fried chicken. We're going to fry it in a shallow amount of oil. Get the breading by doing a flour, egg wash, panko breadcrumb mixture. We're going to season the panko breadcrumbs so the coating has a lot of flavor. And finish it off in the oven so that it stays nice, tender, and juicy. So always start by sharpening your knife. This actually isn't doing any sharpening. What this is doing is whenever you use your knife, if you imagine the blade, it's actually, every time you hit the cutting board, it's deforming a little bit. And what you're doing by running it along this honing steel is actually taking this blade and straightening it back out. So I like to start every time with honing my blade. That way everything's nice and sharp. So we're gonna have 3 chicken breasts for this recipe. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna butterfly these chicken breasts. First, I'm gonna start by removing any fat. There actually isn't very much on this, so I'm just gonna take the little bit that is there off. Any connective tissue or anything that's not good, you just wanna get rid of. It's not a huge deal if when you're cutting through, cut through the other side a little bit like that. It's all going to taste the same in the end, so it's not a huge deal. That one I did a little bit better. You can see I didn't cut all the way through. One nice piece of chicken. Let's remove this piece of fat. And then we'll butterfly this. Alright, so after we have our chicken breast butterflied, let's go ahead and move to making our breading station. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by adding about a cup of flour to this container. I'm going to add 2 eggs and a little bit of water to this and whisk it up. And then I'm going to add about 2 cups of panko breadcrumbs, and this is the container that I'm going to actually season. I'm going to add salt, pepper, a little Italian seasoning, a little garlic powder, just to jazz up those breadcrumbs. Something else you can do is you can always add a little bit of seasoning either directly on your chicken or in the flour mixture so that it's protected from the oil. I know a lot of times people will add their pepper there, and this is because pepper burns at a fairly low temperature. So you can actually get a bitter taste if you burn the pepper. So there's about a cup of flour. Now we're going to add 2 cups of panko breadcrumbs to the big container. 1, 2. I'm going to actually do about 2.5. The reason we're doing a little bit more than twice than the flour, it's going to take a lot less volume of flour to get a nice even layer around the chicken breast than it is this panko breadcrumbs. Now I'm going to crack my eggs into my container. Never crack on the edge of the container that you're cracking into. When you crack on the edge of a container, the eggshell can crack inward and puncture the actual yolk or leave broken shards of shell inside your egg, which you don't want at all. So by cracking it on a flat surface, it kind of compresses, but it doesn't actually crack inward. I'm gonna beat these eggs. That looks about good. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to season my Panko breadcrumbs. I'm going to start with adding a good amount of salt. This is kosher salt, and I like Diamond Crystal brand. The good thing about kosher salt is it's really jagged. The actual crystals, if you were to look at it under a microscope compared to, say, Morton's iodized salt, those are really fine granules. With kosher salt, they're really large granules that are of these jagged edges. So when you pick it up, when you actually take a pinch of it, it doesn't just fall out of your hand. If you try to do that with table salt, it wouldn't work. That's what gives you a lot of control when you're adding the salt to your food. So that's why I like kosher salt. I'm going to add a little bit of pepper, not a lot. Like I said earlier, it could burn. So I'm just going to add a little bit, and then I'm going to add some of this directly onto my chicken. I'm going to add about between 2 and 3 teaspoons, which would be a tablespoon of Italian seasoning. And then I'm going to do a good amount of garlic powder. Now this is all to taste, so right now I'm going to mix this around and get all those seasonings evenly distributed. The great thing about food is you taste it to see if you need to adjust. So I'm going to add a little bit more salt. That seasoning is perfect the way it is. So now that our chicken breast is all seasoned, we've got our flour, egg, and panko mixture ready to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bread this chicken. So we're going to do the wet hand, dry hand method, and that just means that whenever something is wet, whether it's either raw chicken or egg, I'm going to touch it with my left hand, and if it's dry, flour or panko, I'm going to touch it with this hand. That way you don't end up dunking your hands in all of these different containers, and you end up with that flour breadcrumb glove that you get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my chicken, move it around a little bit. Now that this hand is dry, I'm going to pick up the dry portion of the chicken. I just want to make sure that I have a nice even coating. Dunk this into the egg wash. Make sure that there's, like I said, even coating is the key to breading. In a restaurant, you'd have a big tub full of flour or breadcrumbs or clam fry seasoning, and you'd have a batter that you would mix up, which would be kind of like your egg wash, and you'd have these big baskets to toss your food around in. At least that's what we used. You dunk everything into the fryer later. Make sure that your breadcrumbs are pushed in well, all the nooks and crannies. Shake it off, shake off the excess, and you're just going to repeat those steps. Now that we moved over to the stove, I'm going to pan fry these. So I've got a stainless steel skillet here. I'm going to do one at a time just because it's not huge. I'm using grapeseed oil. It's got a high smoke point. Once the oil starts to smoke a little bit, we're going to drop in our first piece of chicken. Always go away from you. I'm using a wire rack here so that the heat can get up under the chicken and make sure it's crispy all the way around. The last thing you want to do is work really hard to get this crispy chicken and then have it steam underneath and give a soggy texture. So now what we're going to do is bake these in a 350-degree oven until the internal temperature reaches 165 degrees. So now what I have here is about 3 tablespoons of melted butter and about a quarter of a cup of Frank's Red Hot sauce. And what I'm going to do is make a classic buffalo sauce. So all it is a little bit of butter, a little bit of cayenne pepper sauce. I like using Frank's Red Hot, that's the classic. I like to add a little pinch of salt. And whisk it up. You can see that color changed of the Frank's Red Hot from a deep red to a nice burnt orange. That was the butter lightening it up, the fat getting distributed into the pepper sauce. That's perfect. So now that I've got my chicken out of the oven, you can tell that it got a little bit more color while it was in the oven because the breadcrumbs had soaked up a little bit of the oil, and being in the oven allowed it to brown up a little bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it and dunk it in buffalo sauce. Let the excess drain off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut strips so that I can apply it to my salad. I'm going to use my knife, get up under to transfer. And this is the finished dish. Buffalo chicken salad, pan-fried crispy chicken, cooked perfectly through. You can still see all the juice that's running out of that chicken, all the moisture that's there. Tossed in a simple buffalo sauce that we made out of Frank's Red Hot cayenne pepper sauce and a little bit of butter with some salt. Super simple, super quick weeknight meal that you can make in 30 and 45 minutes. What's up, guys? I hope you liked my video on how to make easy breaded chicken at home. If you did, hit the like button below and maybe leave a comment. Also, subscribe to the channel so you can see more content. Thank you very much.